All right, everyone, here we go with the notes for Chapter 4, talking about online television strategies in this chapter. And as we do throughout the chapter, we're going to talk about online entertainment in three different facets. First up, web programs. And web programs are going to fall into two distinct categories. Repurposed showings of traditional television programs, and then original content produced specifically for online distribution. Now, that doesn't necessarily just mean we're talking about like amateur stuff like YouTube, but we're going to talk about things like shows that are produced specifically for distribution on various platforms like Netflix and Hulu that are also done by production houses. We're also going to talk about enhancements, which are promotional information that is associated with traditional programs like clips and snippets and interviews and things like that. A lot of these are going to come by means of a network's app, which is a self-contained computer or phone option that provides various services, and it can have these clips, it can have program guides, it can include things like live chats, other sorts of interactive material. And then we're also going to talk about interactive games, and these offer entertainment and storytelling mixed with interactivity. So we're going to cover all these sorts of things as we go through the chapter. Now, web programs are going to be offering the most direct competition to traditional media. And when we're talking about traditional media, in this sense, we're talking about the stuff that airs on broadcast television or on cable television. The name that the television industry gave to streaming videos is what they call over-the-top services. And parts of the internet are now being delivered directly to portable devices, and these are so-called third screens. So using these terminologies, over-the-top services would be that kind of above and beyond that coming from the traditional TV set, and third screens mostly talking about your tablets and your smartphones, but also your PCs and laptops. They're going to be part of that category as well. Wi-Fi's role, operating on the Wi-Fi standard, allows users to transmit streams of data within a small geographic radius via radio waves. So that allows for a kind of a same but different sort of transmissions protocol, where instead of receiving the broadcast signal, you're receiving the broadband signal. Okay, evolution, not revolution. The price difference between full cable service and web programs may influence a cost-based switching decision. We're seeing a lot of people that are opting to cut the cord, which is somewhat of a misnomer of a term. Mostly we're talking about people that are deciding to not subscribe to cable or satellite service and just get their entertainment through various online services. But many times the internet service that you use to be able to consume this content is also going to come from the cable company. So there you go. A merging of interests will occur if and when equitable splits of rights and royalties can be agreed upon. This is part of that evolution of the way that we're consuming content. We've pretty much gotten to that point where we're seeing more and more production companies embracing the idea of having its content online. What we're seeing happen is different partnerships with different streaming services, and those that don't want to partner they develop their own thing, so they keep everything in-house, part of that vertical integration of having all the different services related to media consumption owned by one particular company. So some of the providers that are out there, talk about some of the more popular ones first. There's services like Netflix that offers movies and a little more. Of course, Netflix started by renting movies online, but then began competing with major television networks by producing original video content, as well as continuing to stream older shows and movies. And it helped put a sizable dent in the sale of DVDs. Part of this is there's an appeal to people that like to consume content, but may not necessarily be interested in owning that content. I would happen to fall in that category where generally once I watch something, I'm not going to watch it over and over and over. So it's not, it doesn't have a huge interest for me to have a big collection of DVDs sitting in my house. So if I watch something, generally I'll rent it or I'll stream it. And then once I've watched it, great, I've watched it. So we're definitely seeing that DVDs are starting to decline, except for those types of content that are really attractive for people to own for one reason or another. Then you have Hulu, which focuses more on series, and that has also started adding some movie content as well. So the main difference, Netflix kind of started off on a base of movies. Hulu started off more on a base of programming content. Hulu, originally a free website to stream content provided by regular television networks. Not CBS, though. Hulu does offer some CBS programming, but it's going to be the older stuff that CBS has provided and distributed. As far as current stuff, CBS was one of the early ones that really did not want to play along with putting it on another platform, wanting to keep everything in-house. Every video on Hulu is preceded by a pre-roll, most of them anyway, which is a commercial that must be played before the selected clip. This is what helps to bring the money in for Hulu for those that don't subscribe to the service. And even nowadays, you have different tiers of Hulu where you have limited commercials for one tier, and then it's commercial free for a higher tier. Hulu Plus does offer more content and less commercials. iTunes. You can download content as opposed to streaming the content. You can also store it in the cloud. Although as of last year, iTunes has split itself up into 3 different apps for music, for television, and for podcasts. And it is one of those platforms that you tend to be locked into if you use it for different types of consuming media. If you use iTunes originally to consume content, it can be difficult to take what you watch on iTunes, what you download, and use in another sort of methodology. Amazon Instant Video, or nowadays Amazon Prime Video, where you can purchase or rent videos per instance, or you can get a library of free content with an Amazon Prime membership. Also, in the program providers becoming more and more popular is Twitch, focusing on user-generated live streaming. Some upstarts, you'll see the list of them here on your screen. A couple of note that are out there nowadays are some of these ones that are kind of keeping their stuff in-house and making it so that if you want to consume their content, you have to go to their platforms like Disney Plus and HBO Max. Also, you have several different free platforms out there, including a platform that streams channels as opposed to on-demand viewing, like Pluto TV. Some more services of different types, including some that are defunct or have evolved into becoming different types of services. And nowadays, many local TV stations are offering their own apps for mostly news content. There are some local stations that will also put up things like their public access shows, different documentaries, things like that. Here in Raleigh, WRAL tends to put a lot of its self-produced content available on its website, on its apps, and different platforms that it makes available. Original content suppliers. Now we're getting into stuff that you and I are able to make. The biggest one out there, YouTube, known for user-generated content as well as specialized content for traditional entertainers. And then you have the competitors out there like Vimeo. Vimeo probably the more well-known of the competitors that are out there. Vimeo tends to have this reputation of being a place where people that are a little more passionate about their content creation will tend to go. It's got more of an artistic or journalistic sort of vibe to it. Also, that something that's been becoming up and coming in the past couple of years is LBRY, which is a focus for people that like to keep their content open source, that it's not impacted by things like DRM, which we'll be talking about later on. And then you can see some of the other defunct content suppliers there on your screen. Now, professional web videos. Let's talk about clip culture. Clip culture is the idea of the wide availability of short online video, a result of the presumption that viewers today have shorter attention spans. There was a content provider that tried getting off the ground this year called Quibi, which focused on more professional type of content that was 10 minutes long or less. At least when it first came out, there was a little bit of buzz about it, but it didn't really seem like it was getting a lot of attention. Whether they're still kind of figuring out why. It wasn't marketed well enough? Is the content not good enough? Did it not appeal to people in terms of the concept? But at the same time, user-generated content that tends to be rather short does pretty well with platforms like TikTok. Viral communication goes beyond word-of-mouth advertising, and it's that idea of being able to forward videos and other types of content to other content consumers. As you're scrolling through your social media feed, if you see something that really appeals to you and you think others would enjoy it, or if you just think it's so great that you want to show your personality off by sharing this video, or it doesn't have to be videos, it can be other content as well. You sharing that, and then someone else sharing it off of you, and then someone else, and then someone else, that's what we consider going viral. A meme, an internet spread idea that attracts intense notoriety, usually in the form of a picture, usually in the form of a doctored picture in one way or another. We tend to see the same pictures out there with different types of captions and different types of content for us to read associated with that picture. So, yes, we live in a meme culture now. Some local stations will live stream additional or different content from their traditional on-air broadcasts. This is something that is starting to catch on a little bit more. In Raleigh, Channel 17 WNCN will put on special newscasts, many times associated with weather. They do have a program where they kind of focus on what's going on with the hurricane season, and that is a program that they will, for the most part, air exclusively online. So it's a way for television stations to be able to create content that might not have as big of an audience, or for some other reason may not be deemed worthy of putting on the airwaves, but it can provide that content through the online means. And it kind of helps them to be able to expand some of the different types of coverage that they have to offer, some of the different ways that they can provide programming content. And it's also a way to drive traffic to their websites, their apps, their different platforms, if there is content that is exclusively on those platforms and not something you can just pick up over the air. Ubiquity. Web content can be easily shared, going back to that idea of the viral culture. And honestly, if content is produced well and you and I share it, we are basically the promotion vehicle through which the television station, the production company, is able to get itself out there. So it doesn't take them a ton of effort after they've produced it. If that's good enough, we'll do it for them. All right. Social networks, providing the ability to interact. We've alluded to some of this already. Facebook's still the number one social media platform out there, with different features like live streaming, video sharing, original content from page creators, and of course, different group pages and the business and organization pages that are out there for you to like. MySpace still exists, but it has evolved mostly into a creator's space to upload music and videos. And then there's Twitter, where users interact with others while consuming media via microblogging. Now 280 characters to speak your piece. TV stations and networks use Twitter to create buzz about programming content or to share news and information. For those of us that can't be bothered with reading paragraphs and things like that, if we can capture your attention in a few short sentences and then provide a link to further content, then we're able to capture the attention of the people out there and make our stuff easier seen and digested. All right, some other TV apps. Now, a lot of the ones in the textbook are defunct, but it's at least worth mentioning how some of these things work. There's different apps that allow you to comment on TV shows in real time. There's different apps that provide streaming plus interaction in one way or another. And then there's apps that allow you to check in. Now, what are you watching right now? What are others watching? And in many ways, the more popular social media platforms provide this ability to be able to do these things. But for companies to offer their own specific app that allows you to do these things in particular may be appealing to those that are very strongly passionate or really like the content that's provided by a particular channel or a particular type of program or a particular program in and of itself. And it could be worth having that platform out there for people to use so that they can they can focus their energies just on that content when they're on that platform. It may provide different services or appeal that is different from something more general like Facebook or Twitter. Online program guides provide interactive information on shows and or links to outside content. So it's more than just the TV Guide magazine that used to be out there with the listings. It can provide different links. It can provide abilities to be able to connect with stuff that is out there on the web outside of the scope of these program guide sites and give you a much more enriched sort of experience as you are consuming content that is above and beyond the content itself. Video games and virtual worlds. More than half of those playing online are older nowadays, 30 plus. Men and women gaming almost equally these days. It's fascinating sometimes. I'm not a huge gamer, but it is fun sometimes to take a look at some of the different gaming channels that are out there on YouTube and Twitch, and who is hosting some of those. I can't remember what her name was, but I remember seeing an article about there's a woman in her 80s that's been doing a lot of gaming and streaming on YouTube. And she would start off her videos with, "Hello, grandkids. Today we're going to play whatever the game is." And then it's, her commenting on playing the game, and it's actually kind of sweet and endearing. You also have different types of games that are available on Facebook. The big one from several years ago being Farmville. But now you've got all sorts of different games that you can play right within your favorite social media. TV game shows have some success with incorporating interactive online games. You've got a lot of the newer games that are out there right now. The one I can think of most prominently would be Fox has the game show called Beat Shazam. And it invites those that are watching to have Shazam on their phone, on their tablet, while they're watching the show, and they can kind of play along with the contestants to see how quickly they can guess the names of the songs that are being played and how quickly they can do so. But lots of different game shows will have apps that allow you to do some sort of participation or some sort of competition as you are watching the show. The Price is Right has still kind of the call-in sort of thing. When the contestants are spinning the big wheel, they invite you to call a phone number and you can play to win a little bit of money. MMORPGs, massively multiplayer online games, are played on web-connected computers with hundreds or thousands of others online. And you see the list of the different types of these MMORPGs that you can get yourself involved in. Everything from role-playing games to first-person shooters. Also real-time strategy, turn-based strategy, and simultaneous. And the ability for the games to be able to connect online provides for that interaction between different players in different places. It allows for different types of content to happen at different times, that it doesn't necessarily all have to be on the game cartridge or disc that you buy from the store so that you can play the game on your console. It provides for game companies to be able to update their gaming content, whether it's fixing problems with the game or just kind of adding different enhancements. The online world makes all of that available for gamers. Game consoles have also moved to multiplayer online games. Things like virtual worlds, computer-based simulated environments incorporating use of avatars, which is a web user's representation of his self or herself. And it helps to kind of create that community of sense, in a sense rather, to allow you to kind of put yourself out there, either as your true self or as a representation of yourself, to allow you to be able to participate in the fantasy of the game by creating a fantasy version of yourself if you want to. So that's going to do it for the first half of the notes. We will pick up the second half in the next video. So join me over there as we continue Chapter 4.